The Richard Lewis Esports Podcast. Taking you behind the scenes of the esports industry.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Richard Lewis Esports Podcast, which, as my lovely British radio-themed jingle tells you, aims to take you behind the scene of the esports industry. And just as I'm sure you're also aware by now, to all my regular listeners, I just got to give a shout out to our sponsor, which is Mad Catz. They've been sponsoring this audio-only podcast, which is quite a departure from the usual type of thing they sponsor, which I am truly grateful for. And they're a company that I've had the pleasure to work with in the past on several occasions. Big believer in their products and a big believer in the things they do in esports. The product that I'm currently directing everyone to check out is the Rat Tournament Edition mouse, which is basically a fully customizable ergonomic mouse that you move these like tectonic plates around so it fits your hand. You can change the weight on it. So if you're the kind of person who likes to have, you know, limited movement space but high sense, you can just whip it across there. If you're a bit more like me and you want to sort of have a higher DPI and, you know, you want to move it across a bit more space for extra precision, you can do that too. It's got loads of features. I mean, basically, I think it's a great mouse. It looks like a transformer. I do need to prepare you for that. If you do go out and get one, it looks like a crushed Optimus Prime, but don't be put off by that, okay, because they are great mice. And like I say, it's got up to 8,200 DPI, loads of buttons on it, more buttons than I can count to. But, you know, obviously I'm from Britain. We're not very intelligent over here. So go out and check it out. Anyway, now I can talk to my guest, and this is the fun part of the podcast, which is just as well because it's the longest part. And I'm talking to somebody I've been wanting to talk to for a while, my favorite StarCraft II content creator. Possibly of all time. Yeah, I know. It's quite an accolade. It is the man that they call Jakatak. I'm sure you know him from things such as Bronze Science and most recently an awesome video about why StarCraft is great. It even made me want to play it, even though I'm terrible. So I'm here with a man. Let's start at the beginning then. Content creation in StarCraft II. Why?
Well, it's sort of it's interesting. I started out with hotkeys and not content creation. I thought that the hotkeys in StarCraft, when they became customizable, no one was using it, I was like, all right, you know, this is going to be my contribution to StarCraft. I'm going to make, better hotkeys. And I did that. And, I streamed every day for a year and I was interacting with people and I ended up doing a lot of, there was this basic information that I had that I kept finding all my viewers are like, you didn't know that? It's like, oh my God, what? You didn't know like about the attack move? You've been clicking on units. Like, oh my God, like this giant gap of information that the newer players didn't have. And I was like, well, it's like, I'm going to teach people about it. So I did the streaming thing. It didn't work out. I did a little bit of casting. And then the WCS 2013 came in and like closed off the casting space. So the program I was involved in had about like 2,000 viewers on a regular basis, and then that like dropped to like 200. And we're like, well, we got to rethink the way that we're doing things. It's like this isn't going to work. Our investor was like, okay, this isn't really lucrative anymore. It's like there's no space. Like we're going to pull the plug or whatever. And Sebastian and I, who were doing the casting at the time, said, all right, let's try YouTube. Let's give it a shot. Let's make YouTube videos. And I was like, all right, well, I have tons of YouTube videos that I want to make, so that works out really well. And I spent about 3 months learning how to use Adobe Premiere and After Effects and getting fancy graphics and things like that so it looked nice and clean, and started pumping out videos. So that's how I got into it, basically.
Did you ever think it was going to be lucrative? Like, I know a lot of people who start with making content. I've gone down this road a couple of times. Like, I always think, yeah, if I just record a bunch of shit, I'll make a bunch of money. And then I never do it because I think, well, I'm doing all right anyway, and there's already guys out there. But, I totally could make money from this if I really put my mind to it, and then I just never do it. And I know I've seen lots of guys start and the realities of, even if you get like 800 views on a YouTube video, you make nothing, like literally nothing. It starts to weigh heavy on people, and they think, well, you know what, fuck it, I need to go and do something else. So did you go into it with your eyes open, or did you think this was going to be a way to make some serious pocket change?
Oh no, I have never had any sort of lofty aspirations of making money in the StarCraft II scene right now. I thought I had a lot of ideas that would be useful, that people would like. But yeah, the situation that I'm in right now is really awesome, and I'm incredibly fortunate to be in it. We have an investor who believes in the idea of the project, even if it's not, making lots of money, which it's not. It's like 200,000 views a month. It's like nothing. It doesn't matter. It's like you're not, it's nowhere near able to like sustain me in any way at all. So I'm incredibly fortunate that the investor has chosen to has a sort of passion for what we're doing, and thinks that it's valuable, and think that it says, all right, as long as you guys are doing what you do, and you're continuing to grow, and it's not stagnating, then keep doing it.
But I mean, how do you rationalize the reward to time ratio then? Because your videos are pretty well produced, I gotta say. We'll talk specifically about some of them in a moment, but you do a good job. They're polished. They don't feel like the kind I put together, which is just a bunch of Creative Commons pictures and occasional shot of me talking to a webcam, and it's really awful. They're nice. They look good, and they must take a lot of your time. Plus, the content's good. It's well scripted. You don't just do it off the cuff. You can tell that you actually do takes, and you probably have to write things up and plan things.
Do a lot of takes.
Yeah. So this is this must take a lot of time, and that's time you could be doing other things. So how do you rationalize kind of not making any money from it?
It's I just love it a lot. It's that sort of that term passion gets thrown around a lot, but I do think that StarCraft is the most amazing game that's ever been made. I think that it's it presents all of these really cool concepts that you can translate into real life, and it's like a mental exercise. Like, it's a real sport. Like you have to be pressing the buttons quickly, but you also have to be thinking on the fly. It improves your working memory and your cognitive flexibility, all these different things, and there's tons of data on it. It's like before with sports and performance related things, like, okay, we have the tennis player and they're playing tennis, and we can measure how fast their serve is and stuff like that, and there's a little bit of data there, and we can measure skill, how human beings learn skills and things like that. But with StarCraft, the data is insane. So much information, and it's like this whole, I feel like it has this big opportunity to be this sort of frontier for cognitive science research and understanding how our brains work, actually.
Really?
So yeah, I do believe that it's kind of out there. It's kind of not a lot of people are on board with that just yet, but I do think that is sort of what it is. It's a mentally beneficial exercise, in addition to being a lot of fun and all that kind of stuff. And like I said before, the main reason why I got into it is I just noticed that there was this sort of hole where there was this information that wasn't getting passed out. There's these little tiny things that I care about that nobody else cares about. Like the video I'm making right now, just before this, is the second video on how to kite, and I talking to Lelouch and figuring out the exact way that kiting works in StarCraft in the engine, and what the difference is between using stop, attack, and patrol to kite, and which situations to kite, and the common mistakes that people make when they're kiting, and things like that. And I just get all this information, put it out in a 2-minute video, and then bam, anybody who watches it now knows all this information that took me lots of time to find in 2 minutes, Mm-hmm. So I feel like by doing that, I can help people to be better at StarCraft. And I mean, lowering the learning curve is always nice if I can do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it seems all very altruistic. And I'm always dubious about people with altruistic motivations in esports always. There's got to be. I mean, other than you loving it, I mean, you must. Is it a status thing? I mean, come on. What really gets you off about doing the content?
Positive comments. People coming to me and being like, hey, I had super bad ladder anxiety and I tried out the staircase and like now I don't anymore and I play all the time and it's great. Like, thanks a lot. Sort of my whole life, I've been a teacher. I taught music for a while. I was always tutoring people in music theory and math and all through school, high school, middle school, college, all that stuff. I really enjoy teaching people pretty much anything at all. And I really enjoy skill acquisition, and making content for StarCraft allows me to do both of those things at the same time, which makes me really happy.
But we do come back to all of those other things would pay you, significantly, I would imagine, if you were to do them full time. And yet this content creation, I mean, I'm guessing it's not anything you could retire on at the moment.
No.
Is that a safe bet?
It's the money that's coming in from the YouTube channel itself is not enough to do more than not even pay my rent at this point. It's not very much.
So, I mean, have you ever thought about ways you could make more money from it, or do you think that maybe, I don't know, is it gonna come, or will it always be something that's, you just accepted it's never gonna pay the rent and it's just something I'm gonna do on the side?
Well, the way that it's been working for me is just sort of with the relationship that I have with the investor is the investor wants to see certain things and I have to produce them. So there have been 3 or 4 times so far in the past year where it's okay, you have to make, at least 150,000 views this month. And if you don't, we're cutting funding, and just sort of riding that edge of almost not being able to do this anymore. It's, maybe it's a long-term thing. Maybe we become successful enough so the channel can at least just sustain me continuing to produce content. But we're always looking for different strategies, trying to find, people to sponsor the channel, or, I set up a Patreon to help with my personal finances and stuff. So that way there's less of a burden on the investor to have to pay me as much, if that becomes necessary and things like that. Ideally, I'd really like this to be a successful thing. I'd like to do this for the rest of my life. It does not look like it's possible right now, but I'm still here. I'm still surviving, and I'm just going to keep doing it until I can't do it anymore. And then I'll just, figure out something else to do.
So that kind of brings me nicely on to StarCraft then, because of all the games that you could hitch your particular wagon to, seems that StarCraft, and you've joked about it in some of your videos, but it seems that StarCraft, if you'd started a bit earlier, I think you would have been, one of the men in the scene. I think you would have been, I think you would have made some decent money out of this. But, you came a little bit late to the party through no fault of your own, just as it happens. And I feel now that if you're a serious content creator, it's almost that StarCraft is a labor of love, and it can only be a labor of love. It cannot be the thing that puts food on the table anymore, and that's why we've seen people move on to other games. Have you ever thought about, maybe I should do a couple of Hearthstone vids on the side or something, just to augment the StarCraft content?
I do. I have two YouTube channels. One is Jakatak SC2, where I do all kinds of stuff. I do Hearthstone, chess. I'm going to learn how to play Go, all kinds of different stuff. Me just talking about ideas that I have and stuff, and that's just sort of me. And then I have Tutorial Central, which is the polished After Effects, all the cool stuff. videos. But I mean, pragmatically, I just don't know a lot about those other games. Like, I don't know a lot about Dota. Like, I don't know enough about Hearthstone and Dota to like, or League of Legends to like make content on it. It's just sort of like, oh yeah, I'm a Bronze 5 League of Legends player. Check out this video I made about how to control, I don't know, but Darius or something. You know, like it's just pragmatically, it's not. I don't even think it's possible right now. Like I could try to do it, I suppose, in my spare time, but I feel like I'm so far behind, it just wouldn't make sense for me to do.
But I mean, what about, is there any sort of game out there? I mean, you said you wanted to learn to play CS:GO. Now, I'll tell you firsthand, that game is gonna blow up. I think there's definitely room for content creators there. I don't see videos the like of which I see in League of Legends or Dota or StarCraft really in CS:GO. Everyone gets hung up on frag clips and smoke tutorials, and that's about it really. You know, I never see anything kind of cool or out of the ordinary. So I definitely think there's a market there. I mean, and also don't underestimate, people like to watch people be bad at games. It's my favorite thing. There's a content creator called I think it's pronounced Keishaway, but he does League of Legends videos. He does a series called Wood League Adventures, and everything that happens in those videos are terrible. It just really makes me sad inside. I watch them all the time. I can't tear my eyes off how horrible they are. And he's like, again, one of my favorite content creators. I'd love to get him on a podcast sometime. So I don't know, maybe learning CS:GO, going from StarCraft, this high functioning RTS, to being a noob in a new game. Maybe that's a series people would actually want to watch.
Definitely. Like I said before, skill acquisition is one of my favorite things ever. So if people are interested in watching me acquire skills, that's like the dream for me. It's like, oh, let's watch Jack learn how to play, CS:GO. Watch Jack learn how to, because I'm really, really bad at first person shooters. Like my whole life, like doesn't matter if it's on a PC or a console, whatever. I am one of the worst first person shooters you'll ever meet. It's really bad. Despite the fact that I've tried to become good at them on a number of occasions, I'm just really terrible. So, if people want to watch me be terrible at CS:GO, that would be fun for me. I would totally be all about that.
So here's a question. We were always going to ask this at some point. We were always going to get onto this. We'll get it out early, and then we can start talking about cool stuff. StarCraft II, is it a dead game?
That's the ultimate question. Why are we here?
I know. Meaning of life.
Yeah. And is StarCraft II a dead game? It just follows the logical progression. No, I think that what a lot of people have been saying, which I think is the more important thing, is that RTS as a genre in esports isn't going anywhere. So whether that's StarCraft III or StarCraft Legacy of the Void, or whether it's a different game like real-time, economy-based real-time strategy similar to StarCraft, I think will always exist. So, will Legacy of the Void, bring things back? And obviously the viewer counts are going to jump up during that point in time, and they'll probably come back down again. I think that there's a lot of issues with the RTS genre as a whole. It's sort of the way the games that are out now and the games that I've played, it's just the learning curve is immense. It's just so difficult to get into a real-time strategy game compared to like pretty much any other esport right now. So I think it's really difficult when you have all of these players. You have a much smaller player base because it's such a harder game to start getting into.
So how would you fix some of the problems? I mean, like we go into this all the time on Unfiltered, or rather we used to, when Unfiltered existed. And me and Stephen would have this back and forth about what Blizzard needs to do to attract new players to the game. Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite things that I noticed is we play Hearthstone, right? You open the game for the first time. And the game is there, and it takes you immediately into the tutorial automatically. There's no decisions you need to make. There's no worry about it. You're just introduced into the game.
Mm-hmm.
And you play the game, and you learn the game, and not in this dull sort of, this is how you attack move, you know, like it is in StarCraft. But it's sort of like, this is a game, and through the game, we're going to teach you this mechanic. We're going to teach you it in this sort of bite-sized pieces. And then in the next match, you're going to learn this other mechanic. You're going to learn this different part of the game, and it sort of ramps up. And I feel like the tutorial system in StarCraft and the way that a new user is like guided into that experience, I think if it was something more along the lines of what they did with Hearthstone and what they're doing with Heroes of the Storm, I think it would help a lot. It's just difficult. There's so much information to bring to the new player. Figuring out how to organize it is pretty much what I've been doing for the past 2 years. It's like trying to figure out ways to make that learning curve a little bit easier and figuring out, okay, what are the essential skills? What's the most important thing to learn first, second, third, etc. You know.
Do you put any stock in the idea that the free-to-play model has to be the de facto way to do things these days if you want to get a big audience, if you want to be a successful esport?
I think I feel like StarCraft free-to-play makes absolute complete sense. I would really prefer if we're free to play. Maybe you charge for the campaigns as like a downloadable content or whatever, and you charge for skins and just monetize in the same way that everything else does. I wonder if I don't know very much about the business of having a game company or whatever, but I wonder if Blizzard is sort of locked onto this plan of like, okay, we're releasing these things, and through the life of StarCraft II, the free-to-play thing has just come up. And that wasn't a part of their initial plan. So I feel like some big companies like Blizzard tend to be, they're not always, but they tend to be a little bit less agile. So I think that like, it's something maybe they'll come around to in time, but it's a slow turning tank, and it's not going to get there super fast. I feel like maybe finish out Legacy of the Void just like they usually do, slowly lower the cost of things and make things more free to play over time might be the approach that they're taking to it, if I had to venture a guess.
What about the kind of, I know the way that viewing numbers have gone in StarCraft? Like when I first got into StarCraft 2, like back at launch, my bosses were like, this game's going to be huge, the viewing numbers are going to be through the roof. We've absolutely got to be relevant in this space, and you are the guy that's going to be tasked with doing that. So, that's fine. I went out and learnt a bunch, as much as I could about the game, and tried to do as well as I could. And lo and behold, it blew up. They were right. It went the way we were always going to see it. And then, I know, just now, when a tournament's on, I wonder where all the hardcore StarCraft guys that back in 2010, 2011 were helping StarCraft break records. I don't know where they've gone now. It can happen. Like In Control pointed out recently, you can get big viewing numbers for specific tournaments, but generally on a weekend, if you get into 10, if you get 10K watching a respectable tournament, I think people are a little bit taken aback by that. So I don't know. Do you have any insight as to where all the StarCraft viewers went?
I don't know. I feel like most of this stuff has been hashed out like so well on Unfiltered, so I feel like I would just be repeating that kind of stuff. But I think one of the things that's really interesting to me is the whole tournament scene. Like we saw at IEM just recently, like get really great numbers, amazing games, like phenomenal games. I should have been making videos, but I was watching IEM because the games were so good. Like I feel like having a system where the best players are playing against the best players all the time is so much more exciting and fun and interesting than the idea of like it's sort of like, oh well, this region plays and this region plays and stuff like that. I feel like when we get really good performances out of people like Snoot, it's exciting, and stuff like that. It's like we had the whole pie to start with, because there was nothing else at the time, and now we have to share, and it hurts, we don't want to share any of that stuff, but we have to. There's only so much, there was only so many people in time. I think breaking into the other half of the population, the entire female population, like destigmatizing the whole like immaturity of the gaming scene with relation to women and girls is a big step in the right direction, as we can start to do that more. And I think we are. Just in general, it's sort of like I feel like esports as a whole is getting bigger, and the viewership as a whole is getting bigger, and it's just sort of that we have to share it now, and we didn't have to before, and that's kind of where those viewers have gone.
Well, I think it's interesting as well. You bring up the whole, issue about females in gaming, and how people can act immaturely in other scenes. I've always thought StarCraft is actually quite mature as competitive scenes go. Like every esport I've been associated with, they really struggle with the idea of female gamers, gay gamers, black gamers, like anyone who is different from this kind of staple of esports, which is the middle class white dude. Mm-hmm. People really, how do we cope with this? Like, oh my god, like, do we say bad things? It's like, and even the people that mean well, they're almost part of the problem. Like the white knights are just as bad in a way, right? Because we're failing to normalize something that is normal, that is just part of life. Like, I don't understand why some people go the extreme way and be like, the complete opposite of the haters. We can't even have a rational, critical discussion, actually. But StarCraft seems to have the balance, pretty on point, actually, for an esports community. I've always been astounded at how rational they are from time to time. Is there anything you specifically attribute that to? I mean, can we say StarCraft enthusiasts are more mature than other esports enthusiasts?
I wonder if the average age is higher for StarCraft than it is for the other games, just because the other games are a little bit younger. So you have, StarCraft's been around for a lot longer. So you have people who are older in the scene who have just sort of grown up, and like noticed that grills are real and it's okay. It's normal.
Yeah.
And obviously StarCraft is a superior esport and we're better than everybody else. Everybody knows that. No. I don't know why that is, but I found that as well. Playing games, pub games in Dota and League of Legends and stuff like that. There tends to be, I'm probably really biased because I love StarCraft, but there tends to be a little bit more maturity coming out of the StarCraft community than the other ones. If I had to make a guess, I think it's just an age thing.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about your work. We'll move away from sort of general pontifications, and we'll talk about you. Bronze Science, one of my favorite series. Seriously, like just on the internet in general, actually, not even necessarily just relating to esports. Like, I think it's a good concept that's been well executed, and I like it. So I got to ask. Obviously, people know that it kind of derives from bro science, but talk us through the process of coming up with that video and putting it into action.
Well, I'm from New England, and we are very sarcastic people. And I've always been looking for ways to talk about mentality in StarCraft and talk about these things. Basically, I get really angry about. Just sort of like this idea that like, oh yeah, well, I'm in a higher league than you, so I'm better than you are, And it's about that second order thinking. It's about like, I can't just say, hey, everyone, you have a bad mentality. You should fix it. You know what I mean? It's like you are you have an ego, and this ego is preventing you from being a better StarCraft player. Like, I could sit here and say that, but it's not really going to translate too well. I think people like Neuro StarCraft is really, really good at this more direct, like explaining the way things work and quoting like Sun Tzu and Bruce Lee and stuff like that. but I've tried that approach and I found it to be not effective. So instead, I decided, okay, well, I'm going to play to my strength, and I'm going to play a character. I'm going to be sarcastic and aggressive, and I'm going to display this sort of poor mentality in front of everyone. And at the end of the video, I'm going to say, hey, this little piece at the end that's designed to like sort of turn around and be like, hey, this is you. The person that you've been laughing at for the first 2 minutes of the video. This is actually you. You do this. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. That's weird.
Because I gotta say, I did notice in some of the comments on some of the videos, people didn't get that. I like, some people were taking the videos literally.
Absolutely.
And I was amazed because I don't get how that doesn't come across that it's a parody. I mean, talk me through that then. I mean, that must be the worst. I mean, again, I've talked about this with Stephen numerous times, our mutual friend Destiny, about how when people don't get satire, it must be the worst. It must be the most horrible feeling inside.
Initially I was like, what? I didn't understand it. Like, I didn't get that people didn't get satire. It's like watching Stephen Colbert. It's sort of like, yeah, it's Stephen Colbert. He's satire. It's a joke. You're getting made fun of. Like, that's what he's doing. It's like, I love it. It's great. But like coming to the realization that there are so many people that aren't getting the satire and getting the deeper meaning. Initially, I was like responding to every comment. I was like, no, like, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't mean to like offend you. I'm trying to make a point that I'm actually agreeing with you. And I still get comments like that. I'm agreeing with you. What you just said, that's the point of the video that I'm trying to put across, and eventually it's just sort of like, coming to the realization that, it's just like music. It's just like poetry and music and art. Like, people are going to misinterpret what you're doing, no matter what you're doing. And satire requires a lot of interpretation. So there's going to be more misinterpretation, I think, as a result. And I'm just sort of okay with that for the time being. It's always a sort of struggle for me. It's sort of like when I'm making the video, I'm writing the script for it. It's sort of like, okay, like, is this satire enough? Like, how many are enough people are going to get it so that it has like a net positive effect rather than a negative one? And stuff like that. But as far as like a negative emotional response, it doesn't really bother me when people don't get it anymore. I've sort of like come to expect that most people won't get it, but some people will, and it's worth it for those small people.
What's the worst piece of hate you've ever got for a piece of content you've put out?
In the beginning of things, I had this sort of battle with Reddit when I started doing stuff, because I was new and I didn't know. I didn't know any better. I made some mistakes, and I started streaming every day, and I would just say, okay, well, this is StarCraft community. I'm gonna post my stream on Team Liquid and on Reddit. It's like, okay, I'm streaming. I'm talking about how to improve. It's for lower level players who want to learn something. So come tune in and hang out with me, and we can all improve together, kind of a thing. And I did that every day. So needless to say, Reddit got a little bit upset at me, and it was.
So, what were the specifics?
I was called. Forget who. I think it was like Quantic Hawk called me a snake oil salesman.
Nice.
Like just like that I was leading people astray, from the true path of StarCraft and stuff like that. Nothing too bad. Just lots of little things, just lots of, get out, you're killing StarCraft, you don't know what you're doing, you're ruining things, you're leading people astray.
You were killing StarCraft when you
I was killing StarCraft.
Ah, yeah. Right.
Yeah,
That's how it works. I see.
That's how it works, man. When you make content for StarCraft that disagrees with anything that's in the current canon of StarCraft literature, you are killing it. You're killing it.
Right.
That's right. We need to surround ourselves in a room full of doors and make sure we close all the doors so we can only hear the echoes of our own opinions. That's how it works.
See, I had no idea, because I thought that when you made content for Scene, you were actually helping sustain it. I think that's probably been one of my downfalls, actually, because I've made this argument numerous times. So yeah, no, it's good to know. It's good to know you're actually killing the scene.
Yeah.
I'll definitely take that on board moving forward. But I mean, nothing that ever got out of hand, I'm guessing. Because here's the thing with the bronze science videos, I don't consider them inflammatory, but I guess they're the most inflammatory video you do, in the sense that, if you take them the wrong way, then obviously it could irritate you if you're an idiot, if you're a moron, and you realise too late that you were having fun made of you, then obviously you may get upset and decide to send people, abusive messages. And I get that kind of, thing quite a lot. So you've never had anything where it's like, we're gonna dox you,
kill you, or no death threats, no like please go. Actually, no, people have told me to die, but never specifically that they would be, the instrument of my destruction specifically.
Well, that's good.
Just general, you should die. It would be good for all of us if you did that.
So let's talk about the Reddit thing, because we brought it up, and it's a nice little segue. I thought you were one of the guys who got fucked by Reddit, like in a way that I couldn't really make sense of, because, like I said, I'm a fan of your content. I think most people in the StarCraft community do receive it quite well. It's not that it's unwelcome, your submissions or anything like that. And, there's so much confusion about the 9:1 ratio. Like, is it 9 comments? Is it 9, articles? Like, people have really struggled with it. And I've even seen moderators and admins get it wrong. So for people who are listening to the podcast and don't realize, for every piece of work that's your own, it is a guideline, not a rule, but a guideline of Reddit that you submit 9 other links to other people's content. And I do that. I live that dream every day. I have a cup of coffee in the morning and I go through all the news that I was going to read anyway, and I effectively submit anything that isn't already on Reddit to Reddit. So it really came out of the blue. Like, you seemed quite confused as to what had happened. I think, rightfully so. So talk us through the whole Reddit situation as you perceive it.
Yeah, I aggressively play the game by the rules that I know exist. So if the rule is, if it's a guideline and not a rule, I say, well, fuck that. Like, I need to be successful. It's like, this is a guideline. I'm going to, respectfully disagree with the guideline and go along my way, because it's not a rule, And, it's sort of like, if I can mention on my Twitter that I just made a new video and it's on Reddit, but I don't tell people to upload it, and if that's against, if that's fine, if that's, I've had told me, all right, that's fine, it's not against the rules, it's not voter manipulation, then it's like, all right, cool, I'm going to do that, At least that was my previous mindset. And then I had a conversation with one of the mods after I got shadow banned. So for those of you who don't know, I got shadow banned, which basically means that anything that I post doesn't actually show up except for me. None of my comments show up except to moderators, and the moderators can choose to approve every single one of my comments and submissions and stuff like that. And I was like, well, what did I do wrong? Like, I apologize profusely for whatever I did wrong. Like, I can fix it. Like, I thought I was following all the rules. And I said, well, 9-1. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was comments. Like, well, it's not. I was like, so it's like, it's I have to do links. Like, yes, you have to do links. Like, okay, well, can you unban me? I will do that. I didn't know, and they were nice enough to be like, yeah, okay. We're going to unban you even though you didn't know the rules. The fact that I disagree with the rules sort of aside from it, but it's like, and the miscommunication was really frustrating to me because it wasn't clear. And that was the point in time, at my shadow ban, that I switched my the way that I play the Reddit game to attempting to interpret what I think they might ban me for based on the reason why the rule or the guideline exists, not by following the rule to the letter itself. And I've managed to avoid being shadow banned a second time, so it's working so far.
Well, it really felt to me, though, like, I don't know, there was that big sweep, that everybody got caught up in.
Yeah.
All of the content creators just got fucked simultaneously. And I know that you don't agree with the rule. So, I mean, give me your thoughts about what Reddit should be. Because Reddit obviously say, it's a democracy, which of course we all know isn't true in practicality. But they say that, it's not there for self-promotion. So, which is fair enough, I suppose. It's their website. They can dictate the rules. But the one thing they never seem to acknowledge is that the means and tools that content creators had for self-promotion have now been replaced by Reddit. Nobody will go to a specific website anymore. Twitter has lost a little bit of its significance and its impact. Facebook pages don't get the same sort of conversion rates. People look at the front page of a subreddit, and if you're on the front page of that subreddit, your content will get seen. If it isn't, then, tough tits.
Yeah.
So, I've always felt that Reddit's never really acknowledged that actually it needs to reevaluate its place within our specific ecosystem, just relating to gaming and esports as a niche within gaming. And I've always felt the rules are really needless and harsh and almost the way they pursue
harsh.
them.
9-1. It's insane. It's like 2-1, 3-1. Even that's kind of intense. Like everything that you do, you have to find something else twice as much as what you already do. It's like, wow, it's a lot. It's like 9-1. It's like, it's super draconian. It's crazy.
But it's almost like, as well, I think the thing that I really find offensive in all of it is the way that they have almost brainwashed users and indeed the moderators and admins themselves they pursue it with such zealotry. Like, the idea that if you disrespect the Reddit rules, they will go after you, life ban you, try and fuck your career over. But you see users going, hey, dude, I think Jakatak deserves to die anyway because, man, if he doesn't respect Reddit rules, then, what will he respect in life? It's like, holy fucking shit, dude. It's terms and conditions on a website. No one broke the fucking law, and that people really get uptight about it. I don't know why that is, dude.
Yeah, I feel like people submitting their own content is good and necessary for things to happen. And it's the people always bring this up, and I've ceased to argue about it with them. But there was a time when I did, and they bring up the idea. So it's like, oh well, if it's good content, well then it'll get the views if it's good enough. And it's like, it would be so awesome if that was the case. Like, I would love to live in a true meritocracy where it's like everyone gets equal exposure. I'm pick holes in this later, but everyone gets true exposure and all that stuff, and everyone gets a chance, and somehow we devise a system where the stuff that people want is seen, and that's it. People are judged on the quality of what they do and not on, okay, you have connections here and here, so you're good or whatever, and that's very difficult to do. But it's sort of like, I'm starting out a YouTube channel. I want to make StarCraft II content. I work really hard. I make high quality content. No one's going to see it. Absolutely no one's going to see it because I have to go out and find people to look at it and to judge me and to say, oh yeah, this is great. And maybe they'll tell someone else. We hope really badly that they tell one other person, but it's like, that's just not the case. Reddit is not a meritocracy. It is whatever Reddit is, but it's sort of like the idea that people can't submit their own work. It's like, if it's bad work, it's going to get downvoted. It's not going to make the front page if it's bad, If it's really low quality, someone rambling on about the game, not knowing what they're talking about and not having good presentation or able to speak well, it's not going to make the front page. So it's like, let the system do its job, let it do its work.
Well, I mean, I've always said that as well, that, if you truly believe in the Reddit system, there always seems to be a flaw in the argument, which is people say, well, good content will find its audience, there's so many ways to jig a system. Time that you submit something, title, and here's the thing, you might know exactly how you want your content to be represented. A user might not. Now, we've spent a period of time talking about how the people who watch bronze science videos don't get that they're a joke. Now, I wouldn't want that guy submitting a video saying, oh my God, listen to this asshole talk about how StarCraft II is a dead game. Right? When you're joking.
Yeah.
And it's going to get downvoted, and it's going to get downvoted either because people don't get the joke, or people get the joke and say to the person who's posting it, he's joking, you fucking retard. And in the meantime, it's your views that suffer.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just submit it with 7 reasons StarCraft is a dead game, parody video in brackets, it's probably going to get more upvotes than the alternative.
Yeah.
So I've never understood why you're effectively penalized, for wanting to have control over how your content is represented. It seems to me crazy.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I couldn't agree more.
So, but I mean, how have you been finding it since you've been, unbanned? Has the Reddit relationship, has it re-gelled?
I don't submit any of my own content ever. I just don't do it. I just stopped doing it because I don't have time. I tried it for a while, and there's rules. You have to wait 10 minutes between every link. So that would mean I have to set a timer and okay, I'm gonna find a random cat picture and put it on r/aw, and then find another one. I actually had people hitting me up on Twitter because I was I cheated a bit, and people told me that you follow the 9-to-1 rule religiously. I was like, all right, I'm going to figure out how Richard Lewis does it. I'm going to copy him. And I saw news articles. All right, cool. I'll just go on New York Times. I'll just grab some random articles, put them on r/news. I'll just find 9 of them, whatever, and then I'll be done and I'll upload my content. And people were like, oh my God, you really think this about blah, blah, blah? I'm like, oh God. It's no, this is totally a mistake.
Yeah, you got to be careful. I find people have my page bookmarked and they look at the things that I submit, and it'll be I know. Man with world's biggest scrotum due to elephantitis, commits suicide. It'll be some insane news story. And then people will message me and they'll be like, dude, why have you posted that? What have you got against people with large scrotums? Why the fuck are you looking at what I submit to Reddit outside of an esports context? People are that crazy, man. They're hardcore. They're fanatical about their content creators sometimes.
Well, I don't know. I think it's interesting, sort of the idea of information is everywhere and it's all this stuff, and we're still looking for ways to sort out the crap information and have the good information. Because a long time ago, not that long ago, there were encyclopedias and now there's Wikipedia. You know what I mean? It's it's this whole information is everywhere, and it's not about getting information. It's not about having information in your head anymore. It's about sorting it. And Reddit is one of those sorting engines. And I think another engine for sorting is people that you trust. People trust Total Biscuit to give an honest review about a game. So you don't have to go look on, you try to figure out if the game's good or not. You just sort of trust this person that you develop this sort of relationship with. And I think that begins to be one of the ways people, sort out crap information from good information.
So, it's a really weird thing. Where do you stand on? I've asked everybody this. Where do you stand on whether Reddit is a good thing or a bad thing? If you could push a button and remove Reddit from the esports equation tomorrow, do you press the button?
Does something replace it?
I guess on a long enough time scale, yeah.
Yeah. I would not be here talking to you if Reddit didn't exist. I am very, very confident about that. Reddit has been the engine for, I don't have money to advertise. I don't have money to do marketing and all that kind of stuff. Reddit has been the only way that I've been able to get to where I am now. So I think that it is good and it is useful. I think it can be improved. And, just like anything else, but I hope that Reddit continues to evolve, continues to be better than what it was yesterday. There was this post, I don't know if you got tagged in it, but someone tagged me in it, about the moderators reconsidering the 9-to-1 rule, and being more clear about things and evolving and stuff like that. And I don't know if it was just a sort of getting people to quiet down about it, or if they were actually considering changing things around. But I think that it's definitely, at least from my personal experience, better than not having it there.
Right. I guess what you're saying. I mean, I just think they've got this weird. Right. Okay. The people I'm always dubious about in esports are the people that crusade. Like, I hate crusaders. Like, it's just an industry, it's just a business. Your website provides a service. Lay out some rules, sure. Lay out some guidelines, sure. But then when you start publicly talking about values, right? It's like, you're a fucking business. How like, do you really have values? Because I'm pretty certain that a large part of your values, in inverted commas, are simply means to push people towards paid advertising. Like, that's what you would, and, they're very open about it. Like, oh, Reddit doesn't make that much money, dude. Like, we can't just let people advertise their content for free. So, we offer very generous rates to advertise, and no one ever clicks on them, and the traffic's not as good as if it organically happens, but we're not going to talk about that. And it's just like, look, dude, your values, really, what are they about? They're about making money for your business. And, I'm always dubious about when anyone talks about values like that in a business context. It doesn't make any fucking sense to me. So it's like, I just wish we could get back to the idea of functionality and just have it just plain and just, out in the open that, look, we need Reddit so people can see our content. We, by putting our content on Reddit, drive people to use Reddit. I mean, where do people comment about content? They do it on Reddit. They don't go to another website. They do it on Reddit.
And Reddit, and that's one of the best things about Reddit. Reddit has like this phenomenal voting comment system that's so good. Just sort of like, I wish YouTube comments were that way. So like the crap comments, can we be at the bottom? It'd be easier to like sort them, and people would be able to vote and sort of have this agency in the process. But yeah, I'm with you. It would be really nice to have that kind of, I mean, focus on vote manipulation and things like that. Like, fix those problems, put effort into that, but like, don't stop people from contributing content to their website. It's like, it is, I think, a symbiotic relationship, despite the fact that they don't seem to like want to admit that.
Yeah, I don't think they ever will. I'm personally looking forward to the day when a site actually does come along to make them think about some of the ways they behaved. And, it won't be an esports relationship that gives them pause for thought, may not even be a gaming relationship. But, they've made national news over the politics thing in the past. So I think there's definitely a way that, a new site comes along and Reddit are going to sort of think back like, shit, man, we could have handled some of this stuff a hell of a lot differently. And that'll be a great day indeed. So I want to talk about videos now. We enough of the Reddit chit chat. Let's talk about your process for creating a video.
Yeah, sure. It's sort of evolved over time. Basically, I have an idea. I have about 300 ideas in a spreadsheet of videos that I want to make that are not yet made. I choose one of those, and I write a script for what I want to say, and then I go out and do research and find out all the things that I'm wrong about and fix those, and then rewrite the script, and then record the audio, look for video stuff that matches up with that, and put it all together, send it out to a review team, and they all say, look at all these mistakes you made. I said, thank you for catching all those mistakes, and then I fix those mistakes. And then the video gets put out, and then I put it on Reddit and Team Liquid and all those other things, and hopefully people watch it. And that's the short version.
All told, how long does it take?
It really depends. It's mostly about how many problems that I run into. Like some of the and I go through a lot of rewrites is really where the time gets sucked into. Probably somewhere around like 12 hours of video or more, depending on the video. Like if I had to call it at an average, because it's sort of like, okay, I have this idea about how to control swarm hosts, and I'm going to go through it. And then I realize in the middle of it, oh my God, this thing that I thought was always true is not true. And I have to rewrite everything. I'm like, oh my God. It's been a cool learning experience. I learned more about StarCraft and in the process, but it's tricky. For the bronze science is probably the most time consuming because I have to put a lot of thought into it. It's sort of like with the other videos, like Fast Facts, it's facts, and tutorials, they're just tutorials. They're all things that are true. But with bronze science, I have to work in this sort of like artsy space of like trying to be funny and also making a point and like making a deep connection with people through 2 minutes of video. So a lot of that, I spend a lot of time just looking for good visuals to line up to illustrate the point that I'm trying to make. And writing out the script, rewriting jokes, people, going to the review team with the bronze science stuff and like, oh yeah, this joke, I don't think it's going to land well. Or, I don't think people are going to get this. I think you need to make the satire more clear and stuff like that. The other stuff is definitely a lot easier because of its like solidity.
I talk a lot to Sky Williams, the League of Legends content creator, and he always says comedy's like the hardest thing to write. Like you've got to, it's like you think about stand-up comedians, and I've done stand-up, and I've been a student of stand-up for many, many years. It was the thing I always thought I was going to do, actually, and it was probably the thing I wanted to do. And he said, like, they'll refine and write over the course of a year, maybe more. Just a 15-minute bit. Maybe they can get, maybe the very top comics, they spend ages just to get to a point, many years, where they can have an hour of uninterrupted material, and then they go on the road and they perform that material over and over and over again. If you had to write a different set of jokes per show, it would drive people insane. You wouldn't be able to do it because it's so hard to write, on point comedy, that frequently.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the issues with making videos on YouTube is quantity is valued really highly. Like pumping out lots and lots of videos. Like I made a mistake actually. Unfortunately, it was a mistake. I was really hoping it wasn't going to be a mistake, but I made the mistake of taking 2 weeks to put together that 100th video, the how to get into StarCraft video, because I thought it was really important, and I still think it's really important. And I was hoping that the quality would make up for the fact that I didn't make any videos for 2 weeks because I really wanted this video to be awesome, like just no holds barred on quality. If the clip isn't right, I'm gonna find a better clip, until I'm satisfied with it, which is almost never the thing that I go for. It's almost always, okay, this is good enough, I have to move on, kind of a thing. But I got killed, that month was really, really bad for us, and it was unfortunate that like the one really good video couldn't make up for it. You have people like CPG Gray though that can like, I don't know how many videos he has, like 12, 20, millions and millions of views. But he's so on point with the stuff that he says, and it's like the quality is so ridiculously high. I guess it's difficult to get to that level, get to that level of quality where it's like it's so good it doesn't matter that you only make a video a week or a video a month or something like that.
Yeah, I talked about this with Charlie Winsmore, who does the Esteban Winsmore like kind of Second Life trolling videos. He does other stuff as well, but that's what he blew up over. And he said that he just doesn't feel YouTube, the model, actually is conducive to making high quality content. Like, you're much better making a shit video every day of just you playing a game and going, look at me, I'm playing a game, I'm scared of the game. And just doing that like just every day. And you'll make more money, and you'll be more of a celebrity and a personality than someone that maybe spends a week per video and puts out really well thought out content.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, that's the effect that I felt. And that's what I'm always looking for ways to improve what I do, and that's one of the things. I actually started up a series on my personal YouTube channel, youtube.com/JaktakSE2. That is Brojack Casts, and I just load up a random low-level game and cast it as Brojack, and people kind of like it so far. I'm always looking for those kind of things where it's sort of like, maybe if I can make these small, easy to do videos and maybe people will like them or whatever, and just sort of like keep that stream of content going and also come out with the quality stuff. Unfortunately, it's sort of like, the issue is I have these two separate channels, one where I just make tons of videos and one where I make, or attempt to make tons of videos, and the other one where I make the high quality content. And it's sort of like, I have like 100 subscribers on Jakatak SC2, and I have like 12,000 subscribers on the other one. So it's sort of like, I don't have a really big sample size to see how well that's working yet, because I just restarted that whole YouTube channel thing. But
so you kind of fucked yourself over, in other words.
Yeah. I created this brand of like, okay, high quality content. That's what you've come to expect from me, and I will produce it for you. But it's actually not good for me to do. But if I go in and start doing like, short crap content that's like really easy to do but doesn't have like the high quality to it, and I do it on that channel, then it's sort of like, that's a little bit of confusion there. I'm like, I mean, I could do that. It's something that I've considered doing, but it's very scary to do.
I'm glad you brought up the how to get into StarCraft II video, which, as I'm looking at it now, and it's still only sat on 18,000, well, almost 19,000 views. And I think it should have a hell of a lot more. There was a lot of feels that went into that video, and I think it was quite important and different, actually, in the sense that it talked about what esports can kind of give you in terms of life skills, which I don't think a lot of people ever really, people don't talk about it. People don't even make out that there are life skills to sort of be gained from esports. I think people think that it's actually the opposite. If you play any form of competitive game and you're a gaming addict in inverted commas, that's at the expense of life skills. No one ever really talks about it. So I don't know. I mean, I think it was a really good video, and it blew up a lot bigger than some of your others. But are you a little bit disappointed that maybe more people didn't kind of latch onto it?
Yeah, I was hoping, and I never hope too much. I never put too much in the hope basket, but I was hoping for a little bit more success with that video than it got. But it's been one of those things where like I go to I'm new to StarCraft, and like I go and I check out the Reddit comments, and like one of the people posts that video up. So I feel like it's got pretty strong like staying power. And I think the approach to the game of like find out what's fun for you and work from there kind of a thing, and sort of dispelling the sort of myths of like, all right, you need to just learn one build per matchup and that's all you're going to do, and that's how you get good at StarCraft. Otherwise, get the fuck out, That's sort of, preached to these new players, and it's not fun for them. Like, oh yeah, this is what StarCraft is. I'm out. Forget it. This is way too serious for me. This is harder than school. Fuck this shit. I had someone say that in a recent comment. They're like, StarCraft is harder than university. Why would I ever play it? I was like, I don't know, man. Why are you going to university?
Yeah, it's got a point, though, dude. It's a fucking tough old game. But, like, here's the thing. Like, I've seen so many, bad, rehashed, this is esports. This is why we love esports videos. And it's just the same footage from the same events over and over again. And, everyone knows which moments they are. And it's like everyone always gives them such a big pop. They get hundreds of thousands of views. And I just think, I know, this was a little bit different. I thought this actually talked to the things that you can take from esports as just a regular player, just a regular Joe, how it can. I've heard a lot of people say this, actually, that certain games have taught them self-discipline and, how to, actually better themselves.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a huge tangent, but it's always been one of my stronger beliefs that the future of education as a whole is games. Like in the future, like that's how you will learn things. You will learn pretty much everything you need to know from games, because I learned more like philosophy through Final Fantasy than I ever learned in high school, and I, for me, it's just always sort of been music and poetry and games that have like opened up my mind and to think about new things and explore different things. I think that's kind of where things are going in general, is sort of this decompartmentalization of knowledge. Is sort of like, this is games, and games are over here, and when you do games, you learn about them, and that's great. And this is history, and this is English, and this is literature, and this, all these different things. And sort of like there's so much, overlap, and there's so much to be gained from mixing things and allowing your brain to just say, yeah, everything's sort of connected in a way. And if you allow yourself to make the connections, you can, be more efficient with your time and be a better human.
I read about a physics class that was using Kerbal Space Program to teach kids about, rocket propulsion and some of the elements of physics. And I thought that was really cool because
awesome.
I love that game. I say I love it. It frustrates me immensely. But my mission to Mun hasn't been going particularly well, guys. But but it's a great, it's a great example. I've always thought, like, I don't know if you guys did this. Maybe I'm showing my age here, but we used to have computer sessions, where like we would play a game that was designed for something, be it English or maths, and we would have like an hour just sat at the computer, and you'd play through a game or a program. So it could be like, I don't know, an adventure one where you had to type like use key to open door and it taught you shit like that, or it could be something a bit more literary, like they did a version of Roald Dahl's, and I think on a computer it was called Mickey's Marvelous Medicine, where you had to make the medicine, which I think is to poison his grandmother or something. I can't even remember what that was about. Oh, wow. Yeah, but you've got to make it. And then there was mathematical ones, obviously a bit more, like kind
straight
of
up,
transparent in there. You would type, Tarzan does maths because why not? Why not some guy who's been raised by beasts in the jungle? He's going to need, to know how to do equations, obviously. So yeah, but I don't know. I always felt like the potential was there for like computers and gaming to actually be tools, because we used to love those sessions. We used to get hyped, like, oh, it's computer day today, wicked.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I did the same thing. And have you heard of the Khan Academy at all?
No, I haven't.
It's wild. It's they're starting to get more and more support. But if you go to, I think it's like Khan Academy, KHAN Academy.org or something like that.
Okay.
It's this computer system that helps teachers to spend more time on the students that need the help and make for a more like fluid learning process. Because like some people get caught up in sort of like algebra, they'd be really good at like, trigonometry or whatever it is. And it's sort of like, it allows you, the teachers, to see everything that's going on. And it's like anyone, anywhere. It's totally free. Just get on Khan Academy and you can learn from absolute basic math to like calculus 6 or something like that. Like, and it's all there. It's all in games, and it does what teachers can't do, which is what games do, which they're, adaptive difficulty systems, where it's like, all right, you're doing well. It's like, we're going to challenge you. Not so much that you're not having fun and you're not engaged, but not so that you're bored and left behind. And it allows all of a sudden math, instead of everyone getting the same, lecture and everyone getting the same homework, it's sort of everyone's moving at their own pace. And the teacher can come in and say, all right, so-and-so is caught up here, so I'll help the students that need help the most. And the ones that are doing well can get propelled forward. And like the students that are doing well can help the ones that are doing not as well and stuff like that. But it's sort of like computers can do what teachers are doing now better than they're doing it in a lot of areas. And I think math is one of those very clear areas where it's like, yes, computers could be doing a better job.
So what clear lessons do you think you would learn from StarCraft in a classroom environment? What do you think you could teach people?
That's one of the most difficult things, and I'm actually trying to make video series on it right now for me to articulate. I think basic relationships of risk and reward is something that I've personally taken out of StarCraft a lot. Is sort of, instead of going into this situation where it's like, oh God, I'm getting cheesed or whatever. It's like, no, it's like, your emotional reaction to this is not helping you right now. What you need to understand is that the opponent doing the cheese is taking a risk and they're going to get the reward. And if you make the appropriate response, you can deny that. Maybe it's less tangible stuff. It's like having a stronger mentality, having better discipline, being able to stay calm under pressure, and stuff like that.
Is there anything that any other games that you would sort of recommend that you think you can learn from? Because, I mean, you obviously play a lot of games. I know StarCraft is the number one passion, but...
Yeah, I think... I'm trying to think of other games that are like... Actually, Hearthstone is really cool. I've seen a lot of parallels that have been playing more Hearthstone with StarCraft. Is sort of like understanding the concept of a tempo deck and like how that relates to like a tempo strategy in StarCraft, as opposed to just like a rush strategy. And they're different. They're different things. But I never even realized it before, but sort of making those parallels. Not really parallels to real life. So it doesn't answer the question. I don't know.
That's all right.
Any sort of critical thinking, any sort of critical thinking, I think is good. Like I said, Final Fantasy, I learned, it was crazy. It was a moment for me. I was playing Final Fantasy VIII, and there was like this line or whatever where they're talking about like the enemy, the bad guy, and Squall's like, well, it's just a matter of perspective, and this sort of like, what the hell, and Squall, this character who this whole time you've been brought up, to idolize and to be like, that's you, you identify with him. He's like trying to save the world or whatever, and he makes this comment, so I was sort of prepared for it correctly, and I was like, that's really interesting. It's sort of like I've never considered that the bad guys might not be the bad guys, You see that in propaganda and war and all of this stuff. It's sort of like, oh yeah, you live in the United States. It's like, oh yeah, the Russians are all evil. They're all bad people. It's like, no, they're not. It's like it's not the case.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the thing,
in a different
isn't it?
Perspective,
Yeah, I don't think it would. I don't think that kind of level of high-end philosophy would even be welcome in an American classroom. Or a British one, for that matter. I can't really take the moral high ground here. Not anymore. Not like we used to. But so I kind of don't think it would happen. It's a shame. I'd like to change the way our curriculum works in the sense that how it used to be back in the day. Way back, ancient Greek. Not like back in the day, like as in back in my day. I'm not that old. Maybe Scoots would be able to talk about learning from Socrates.
Talk about ancient Greece, you really got to bring in Scoots.
Yeah, exactly.
He's the one who was there. He knows.
But like it used to be the first thing that you got taught was philosophy. The love of knowledge, the love of learning, and then you would just specialize based on whatever your kind of instincts told you, and that's why all the great philosophers had some pretty amazing theories in like maths or whatever, but some not so amazing theories that we don't know them for in other areas. Pythagoras, we all know about him and his triangles. But by the same token, he also believed in something called the transmigration of souls, which is, some sort of early reincarnation theory, if you like. And, no one says, oh, well, let's look at all of Pythagoras' shit, because, some of it was exactly that. It kind of sucked, it was just people who just wanted to learn as much as they could, coming up with ideas and theories. And I wish we could do that with our youth now, like I wish the education system was a bit more geared towards critical thinking rather than, just, oh, well, this is how we're going to do things. And it's got to be so rigid in its thinking, and it's got to come out of a textbook. And if it doesn't, then it's bullshit.
Yeah, I think it's sort of like, to me, the two most important things for a human being to know are how your brain works and how your body works. Like understanding health, flexibility, like nutrition, understanding logic and philosophy and things like that. It's sort of like, that's the stuff. It's like there are so many people, and this is great. So there's a fallacy in logic called appealing to authority, and the idea is that, I mean, you probably know this, but maybe other people don't. The idea is that just because someone is an expert in a field doesn't mean they're always right. And if you're making your argument saying, oh, X player does this, therefore it's right, is a fallacy. It's a logical fallacy. Making an argument in that way doesn't really hold anything. It doesn't prove anything. But that is the dominant StarCraft argument.
Yeah.
It's a completely fallacious argument. And I'm just like, well, I can't. It's like, oh, well, the Koreans do it this way. It's like, okay, that's great. It's like, is that good? Is it actually good? It's like, what are the actual advantages to doing it this way? You know, rather than just saying.
You see it in other games as well, dude. Like, you see it in loads. I mean, like League of Legends, right? Like, champions aren't viable until a Korean picks them up, and then suddenly they're viable again. And they always were. You know, there hasn't been a buff or a nerf or anything like that. It's just literally, oh, right, yeah, well, I guess it kind of was viable. We just said it wasn't. And you see it all the time, that, you know, it trickles down into solo queue mentality, where if you pick a champ that, you know, maybe you've got 3,000 games with but isn't considered meta, you're going to get flamed for it. But if there's a champ out there that wasn't considered meta until just now, like just this current iteration, you know, because there's these flavor of the month champs, you know, people need to innovate at the highest level, and Koreans generally tend to be the people leading that charge. You know, when they pick up a champ, all of a sudden, yeah, it's cool again. It's all right. And down in solo queue, it's considered all right. Doesn't matter that you can't use him for shit. You know, the idea that you've picked the right champ, right in inverted commas, is fine. It's better that than a non-meta or a non-flavor of the month pick.
Yeah, the whole concept of like the right way to do things is very, very frustrating to deal with. I'm managing a group of players with Robert Yip, called the Sandbox, and we're attempting to incorporate more deliberate practice into StarCraft rather than just laddering all day. Just focus deliberate practice, because you know that's what the Kespa teams do, and we think we can do it even better because Robert's got the sports background, and we have some cognitive scientist people on board as well. And convincing players to leave their minds open to possibilities other than, like, leave that space for the area that you don't know yet. There are things in StarCraft you have not considered yet. Like, how long did Brood War was out before Corsair DT was a thing? Like, you didn't build DTs, you know? It was like, oh man, logic, right? That's some logic right there. Let me tell you one thing. All right. So, overlords detect, and they're fucking everywhere. And then you got DTs who are cloaked, and they're totally useless unless they, you know, avoid detection. Guess what? You don't build them against Zerg, noob. And then Bisu comes around, and he changes the game. It's like there's always going to be that room for new things and innovations and different things. There's just way too many variables in StarCraft to not leave your mind open to say, okay, there are things that I haven't considered, and I'm willing to be open to that idea, that I'm not locked into Snoot Swarm host is the only way to play StarCraft. Just so difficult to try and convince players to do that, especially successful players.
Which content creators inspired you the most?
Day9, for sure. I mean, at the time, that was kind of all I was watching. I was just watching GSL and watching Day9 and watching State of the Game. When I came up with the crazy idea to do this, I was actually watching State of the Game, and Noonie came on, and he was like, customize hotkeys, check it out. I did this cool thing with Phoenix, and I put them on queue. And I was like, my mind was completely blown, like putting a control group on a letter, like what's going on? And then, you know, from that point on, I was like, oh my God, that got me started on my whole hotkey kick and stuff like that. When I was streaming too, it was the same thing. It was mostly Day9. I actually got a lot of garbage. So I have a sort of like ear for accents where, if I practice them, I can sort of get them down, and it'll happen automatically. Like, I'll hang out with my cousins from Boston, and I'll straight up have a Boston accent, like 100% Boston accent when I come home. And I'm just like, oh, right, gotta speak normally. Okay, here we go. It's back. And I watched every single episode of Day9 for like the first 350 episodes, every single one. And I started streaming, and people were like, oh my God, you just sound like Day9. Oh God, you're just a Day9 copycat. It's just like, I'm sorry. I'm really working on trying to present StarCraft information, not like Day9, but I've only watched Day9 for 300 episodes. So it's really, really hard. But eventually I found my voice. I think Wolf had that same kind of effect where he was using very similar vocal inflections and presentation as Artosis for a while, and he got a lot of garbage for that, and eventually sort of developed his own voice, and he's improved out of that system. But yeah, mostly Day 9. There wasn't really anyone else around yet, at that point in time that I knew about.
Have you ever had anyone contact you and say that you're inspiring them to create content?
Not yet. People, most of the positive comments are just like, hey, thanks for making the content. It's cool. Nothing, no prodigies, not prodigies. No people saying, hey, I'm going to create content too. None of that just yet.
That's kind of sad. I was expecting it to say yes. Like, no, seriously, I was thinking someone must have done that, but that hasn't happened yet. That's really sad. We need to change that, I think. Hopefully someone will listen to this and just say it, whether it's true or not.
It was like I get an email, and then it's just like, hey, just like, you've inspired me. I'm gonna be a content creator. It's like, oh, cool, great.
Yeah, just don't.
JK.
Yeah, just don't look at it, 'cause it might be from me. I might have to send it. But, so what's the future then? What does the future hold for Jakatak and his content? We've talked a little bit about maybe you're going to look at some other games, but just in general, I think, and for your hardcore StarCraft following, what are you going to be up to next?
So many things. I'm working on a project with Blizzard that I can't talk about, so that's exciting. So hype.
Anything that's NDA'd is generally good. I find.
Yeah. So that's exciting. I'm playtesting for Day 9's new RTS. Which is really, oh man, it's such a cool game. It's really interesting. And hopefully, I'll have content about that when I can talk about that. The Brojack Casts series is a new series we're starting up. Finishing off the How to Kite series. It's been a lot of research, a long time coming. I think it's going to be like a 6 video long series. Finishing off the Staircase. The Cheese Case is a new thing. Which is the approach of learning how to play the game and learning the easiest, shortest, cheesiest builds first, and sort of disconnecting from the idea that cheese is bad or cheese doesn't make you a better player. Cheese absolutely does make you a better player. It's just not in the normal way that people say, oh yes, macro, I stand on my moral high ground and look down upon ye cheeses with great disdain. So we got the Cheese Case, got the Staircase. The Core 2.0 is under construction, as it always is. Doing some crazy stuff with that, with hotkey tricks and stuff like that. And yeah, like I said before, really trying to figure out a solid way to present how StarCraft helps you in real life, and how to drawing comparisons between, different areas of knowledge and how that's advantageous, and sort of finding a way to convince people of that in 2 to 3 minute video segments is something I'm working on as well. So lots of irons in the fire. I
was going to say, holy shit, that's a lot of stuff, dude.
Yeah, the videos I want to make is somewhere around 300. The videos that are partially done is around 18 right now.
Right.
And that's kind of the way things are rolling pretty much all the time. I've always got a lot of irons in the fire.
So, do you think if all those irons come off, the retirement dream is still real? Like maybe we can make you a millionaire?
I'm not really interested in being a millionaire, but living comfortably I think is possible. It's just going to be incredibly difficult. I'm down to make the sacrifice to work at this for another couple of years. And that's kind of the way that I've gone through life. I went to school for music instead of going to school for math. I went to school. I toured with a band for a year and a half instead of finding a solid job. And I sold everything I owned, moved to California, and started up Esports. If this doesn't work out, then I'll be on to the next thing that I really care about. I don't see myself ever stopping playing StarCraft ever. I don't see myself stopping making content for StarCraft ever. It just might not be as often if it's not my full-time thing, but it'll always be at least a part-time thing for me.
Okay, well, look, dude, are there any plugs you want to work in? I mean, any your Twitter, your Facebook, anywhere people can hunt you down and send you some hate mail?
Absolutely. So email everything. I just recently consolidated everything. It's all Jakatak SC2. So Jakatak SC2 at gmail.com, at Jakatak SC2 on Twitter. Jakatak SC2 is my Reddit account. Jakatak SC2 on YouTube. Jakatak SC2 Patreon. Patreon.com/Jakatak SC2. So that's consistent crowdfunding. If you like what I do and you want me to keep doing it, then you don't you don't want to have to depend on, financial backing from, mysterious donors and sponsorships and stuff like that. If you want me to keep doing what I'm doing, you can just give me $1 a month. And if there are enough of you, I'll be able to keep doing this. That's kind of the basic concept of it. I think it's really cool. And that's it. That's everything. Everything's Jakatak SC2. Send me an email with hatred or love, whichever you prefer.
Well, look, it's been great to talk to you. Surprisingly highbrow. Well, I knew it wasn't going to be. It wasn't a surprise to me, but maybe to other people out there. Surprisingly highbrow. We talked about all sorts. So it's been great to talk to you, and I wish you all the best. Like I say, you are my favourite StarCraft content creator, no doubt about it. And I certainly hope you achieve recognition in your lifetime. As they say. And to everyone out there, much like Jakatak, if you want to support this, the best thing to do is to go on over to Mad Catz' website and check out some of their products and tell them that the Richard Lewis podcast sent you. They make some amazing stuff. We talked a lot about the Rat Tournament Edition mouse, but they make some great fight sticks. If you're into fighting games, they make headsets, keyboards, everything. So go and check out Mad Catz. I certainly recommend it wholeheartedly. And thanks to my guest Jakatak and to all you for listening. The podcast will be out next week. And until then, I shall wish you a good night.